Boo, 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 boo. Okay. Hi, guys. Eh, guess who's back? Back again. Tell a friend. Tell a... Okay. Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. It's been a long time, and we haven't spoken. We haven't seen each other in a while, in a long while. I don't know if it's called a while, if it's been long, in a eternity. It feels like an eternity actually. But hi guys, I am back, and to those that really wanted to hear from me, I apologize. I apologize for the delay. I was just, dealing with some laziness. But now it's a new year, so I'm back. And to those that are going to watching this for the first time, welcome to my YouTube channel. Um, and that happens. So basically, that was supposed to be for like aesthetics, because that frame stays over there, but I was putting it here because I wanted to. But it's fine. Let's just let her be moody. I know she's also mad at me, but anyways, so yeah. So if you're still new, welcome, and I hope we're going to have a good journey. This is my first episode for 2022. So yeah, man, and I think it's the fourth episode in total. I hope it's the fourth. In my head, I keep thinking it's the third, but I'm like, it has to be the fourth. But anyways, either way, welcome and hi. So today I decided, or for this episode, I thought, what is a better topic or a better way to come back? And I'm like, you know what? Something special is happening this year, so I'm going to speak about that. And that special thing is I'm turning 30. Yes. So this year I'm turning 30. Like, yeah, like 3 10 years. That's me. And most of my friends. So I actually realized this year that majority of my friends, okay, not majority, but yeah, most of my friends, that's a majority. Anyways, they're turning 30 this year, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. But yeah, so I just wanted, yeah, so I'm turning 30, which is exciting, but very scary at the same time. And it's a lot of emotions, and I think it's one of those things whereby, because I always feel like every experience that we go through, another person has went through, and the interpretation of it has always been different. And I think the interpretation like differs from person to person, from situation to situation, because I know people who are like, why are you like, what's the fuss, it's just 30, like people who are now 35, 31, 40 or something, like it's just 30, there's no big fuss, right? So there are people who are like that, and then there are people like me who are like, oh my god, I'm turning 30, like what does this mean, all those things. So I'm one of those people. When I turn, okay, this is my first time turning 30, but I take it, it's a big deal, it's a huge deal for me. So like growing up, I was one of those people, but, and I think now that I'm talking about it, I think it came from, this is where it came from. So I think I've always been a big bodied person. And for some time, maybe even now, I've never like quite looked my age. So I used to celebrate growing old. Like I used to celebrate when like I'm turning, like, like turning an older age, because I was like, maybe now, I think honestly, like subconsciously, there was that thing that, okay, if I turn 18, maybe people will believe me when I say I'm 18, right? From 17. So, and when I was 17, I was finishing high school. So I think it was mostly that. So I celebrated birthdays because of that. I'm like, okay, and listen, I'm getting to an age where people will believe like when I tell them my age, because I got a lot of, but you don't look your age, which is not a nice thing to say to someone. It's nicer when someone is 35 and you tell them you look 21. That's nice. But when I'm 21 and you tell me I look 30, that is not nice. And stop saying it to people. Anyways, so I think like for a long time I've always been that person, right? And so like, but along the way I stopped it. I was like, no, actually it made me, I don't know, like I enjoyed being young. And like people were like, how old? I'm like, I'm 21. I'm like, what? You're 21? They'll have whatever interpretations, but I was like, oh, that's my age. Um, but I think turning 30 for me is exciting. Okay, beginning of the year, like in Jan, I was like, oh my God, just at January 1st, like when Happy New Year, I'm like, oh, I'm turning 30, right? And all of these things come to mind. But then there's two things that happen, right? There is the internal pressure, the personal pressure that you put on yourself, and then there is the outside pressure, right? Of which I think the outside pressure, we really, to a certain extent, we really can't control that much, right? So the external factors. So I just want to talk about those two things. So the first one is the external factors, right? So I'm a firstborn at home. I'm a firstborn girl at home. And already turning 30, there is so many expectations, right? And especially when it comes to the settling down, marriage, kids part. Because I think for some strange reason, even if you get a job, the best job in the world, you get the best salary, you drive the nicest car, you live in the most beautiful house. As a woman, if you do not have a kid, if you don't have a child and a man, in a way, you're lacking something, right? So I've been then experiencing that. It can be from, oh, mama basendaweni, from, family, from, like different spaces, people are like, oh, you're turning 30 now, your eggs, this, you what, your womb is rotting, I remember in December, I went to my maternal grandmother's house where there was a family ceremony for my cousin, and one of the elders of the family said to me, you can have a child now, like you don't have to wait for marriage, even if you can just have a kid, because like you're getting old, it's not going to be easy to have a kid, to have a child, and so on and so forth, And I was like, in a way I understood this, like this just, it's old people talking, right? But it's one of those things that, it instills a certain pressure in you. You're like, oh my God, like, because now everywhere you go, people in a way tend to forget. And I think also this happens a lot when you're a woman, but I'm sure it also happens for men as well. I mean, I'm not a man, so I wouldn't know, but if you're a guy, you can share also your experiences. But like now you like everything that you've achieved and you've worked hard for in a way is invalid, because like this thing, like getting married and having a kid, is a thing that people are putting on a pedestal, and then they're interpreting as being the most important thing that needs to happen in your life at that point in time. So I think for me, that's just been one of the biggest pressures, and I remember when I was like 25 or something, I have a conversation with my mom, and because like I didn't grow up from a strict family, but like at home, like because my dad is a very quiet man. He's not strict per se, and I think most people always think my dad is strict. My dad is not strict. He's just a like at home there's like rules and things, but it's not to the like extreme. But I think because at home growing up, like the biggest thing was always go to school, education, succeed, like that's like that was the thing at home, like this, that's the thing that we're fed the most, so even in terms of like, I think maybe for me personally, like awakening to like even the whole dating relationship situations, it took a while. And I think also because I was a boarding school kid, so like I spent a lot of time like at school, was mostly surrounded by girls. I mean, I did, there were boys in school, but I don't know, it's a story for another day. So I think now, because I was that kid, went to tertiary and so on and so forth. And then now, when I was like turning 25, my mom was like, well done. So, like we started, I think by then we started having conversations about, dating and stuff like that. And I remember her saying to me, by the time when I'm still hopeful now, but when you turn 30, I'm going to give up, in terms of like, me dating or, settling down, or someone coming at home to ask for a hand. And she always says this, my mom has 6 kids. And when she turned 30, she had her last born kid. So when she was 30, she was having my little brother. So, I'm like, but girl, me and you, we are not the same. But, it's just, so it's an accumulation of all those things that happen along the way. But I think then it also then depends on you as an individual, way like how much you can take and how much you choose to just, because I think that's another there's a part where you like, some people succumb to the pressure. I'm like, oh my god, yes, no, what do I do? Some people choose to ignore it, and some people are defensive about it, you know. And I think sometimes you go through those stages where like you're defensive, like you want to defend yourself because you don't want to feel as though people are invalidating who you are and what you've worked hard for, right? So I think it's that. So that's the first part, the pressures from people. And I think also within just the pressure from, there's this joke that people say, always make, about how we, growing up, we thought people who were 30 were old, and we thought they were not serious about life and they didn't have their shit together, because there's that also just pressure of age and growing up. And now look at us, we don't know what's going on. We're just trying. We're taking a day at a time. I don't know. Sometimes some days are good, some days are bad. It's life. And then I think there's the second part where it's the internal, the personal thing, the personal either pressures or goals that either you put for yourself, or you put out. But I think there's also a part of it where some of those goals are to a certain extent influenced by the external factors, right? Where I think you look at your life, because now you're turning 30, you're like, oh my God, I'm 30 and I don't have maybe a stable job. I'm 30 and I don't have a house. I'm 30 and I don't have a car. I'm 30 and so on and so forth. Because some of that, I think that's why I'm saying it can be, it can be influenced by external factors, because now you're looking at it the outside and you're like, so and so is this age, but and then there's just that expectation that when you're 30, your life is supposed to be together or something like that. So, and then we put then pressures on ourselves. And I think for me, the thing always is like, fine, okay, I'm not 30 yet. I am 30 actually. My birthday is in May. But, so I think then there's that way. Fine, there are those pressures and so on and so forth, but then there's the reality. And which is something that I don't think we can escape from. Because pressure is pressure and, everything. But there's reality. And reality is who we are. Like, that's where what we live, like we are in reality. And reality says, just because you turn 30, it doesn't mean all those things are just going to fall on your feet. It doesn't mean all those things are going to happen. It doesn't mean that now you're going to start achieving all your goals and so on and so forth, right? I think the go-to thing for me is in a way, maybe the mental stage, there's a mental shift, right? Like in how, in our reasoning, in how we see things, in our priorities, like those things are expected. But, for some people, they also happen very early in their lives. But I think, for me, I think that maybe that's more of where we should go. Like, that's more of where we should lean on to, in terms of, okay, mindset is changing, priorities are changing. The things that I thought were a definition of my life then, maybe now they're going to change. But I think it becomes unfair to oneself when then we crucify ourselves because we are not where we thought we would be at this age, or where other people thought we would be at this age. Because even some people that put pressure on you, they were not where they should have been, or where they expect you to be at that age, So, there's that. So I did something then. So I think also still in the personal one. So I did something beginning of the year, right? So this is my notebook. This is my notebook. And I was excited, I'm turning 30. Ooh, 30 this. So I created this, It's very nice. 30, and it's like explore, love, prosper, grace, happiness, wisdom, and so on and so forth. It's fine. But I think what I want to share is, so I wrote promises, right? So these are like the promises I was making to myself. So I wrote two things. So there's promises, and then there's 30 at 30. So 30 at 30 is like the 30 things that I wanted to do now that I'm taking, like 30 things that I want to make sure by the end of this year I've done. And some of them, I saw someone doing them on Instagram. So I was like, yeah, I can do it. But reality, I can do some. Some are like things that I do every year. But I'm like, let me write them now. But some of the things I'm like, one of the things I wrote was like learning how to knit. Yeah, I want to learn how to knit. And it's number 3. I'm like, I don't know why. I went to Pinterest actually, and I copied other people's lists. I was like, oh, learning how to knit. You should do that. Anyways, so and then I wrote like some promises. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 7 promises. I can't share all the promises, but I think the 2 that stand out for me, okay, they're all important, but I think the one is number 2 was keep all the promises that you make to yourself, and then complete every task that you start. And I think, I mean, of course, they also stem from just the things that I struggle and battle with, you know, as a human being in general. But I think for me, you know, that I think now that it's March, I think that's the approach I want to take more than, you know, copying and pasting other people's interpretations and ideas of what it means to turn 30. I think it's more of being intentional about what I do, right? So I want to continue and maybe more and more like be precisely in terms of ensuring that the things that I do for myself right now, because it is important that I'm turning 30. For me, it's very important, right? So I want to be in a space where I do things intentionally, like things I do like are intentional and are things that are gonna make me happy, and that I fulfill the promises that I make to myself. They may be big, they may be small, but just make sure that I do not let myself down. And also now that, okay, fine, I'm like, okay, I'm turning 30, and then looking into the next 10 years until I'm 40, I'm like, okay, what are the things that I want to see defining my life as an individual? What are the things that I just want to, I think, work on? Because the other things are going to fall into place. If maybe someday I'm going to meet someone and have children and get married, that's going to happen. That's also fine. But now it's like it's more of, I want to do things that will define my next 10 years, and things that are going to make me happy, and things that are going to be very intentional. So yeah, so I think for me it's that. And I hope maybe even, especially to all my fellow 30-year-olds, I hope that, you know, that's also the stance that you're choosing to take with your life. You know, whether you make it a big deal, whether you don't. But I think it's just that, to say, you know, just take it at your own pace. You know, be very intentional, take it at your own pace, and, you know, like, enjoy the bits, you know, the frustrations, the mess, the madness of it all. Like, just be in it, you know, live in it. Do not just exist, but be in it and live in it. So yeah, that's just about it. So I'm done. But you guys can also please share your experiences, your interpretations, whether you're turning 30, you're younger than 30, maybe like what are your fears? Maybe, you know, you like maybe above 30 is like what are the things you've seen, the lessons you've learned, and so on and so forth. So just please share your experiences. It'll be great to hear from different people and their experiences. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for, you know, your time. I really appreciate your time, because I can talk for days. So I really appreciate your time. And please do continue taking care of yourselves, and also please tell your friends about this channel. I'm really back now. I'm so back. It's not gonna be funny, but yes, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe, and notifications, and engage. Thank you guys. See you next episode. Bye.